JPH 0917 here with you again in our series of abandoned railroads of Massachusetts. We're doing the Lowell and Lawrence Railroad, which was independent, then fell under the Boston and Lowell, and then the Boston and Maine. This is the only part in the Lowell area of the Lowell and Lawrence that's still being used. As you see down there is the bleachery connecting to the Boston and Lowell main line, which is now the Lowell commuter line. And the tracks cross over Meadowcroft Street here. This is the Meadowcroft Street crossing. And then right at that curve is where the Lowell and Lawrence stops. The curve goes to connect to the B&M's main line, and the Boston and the Lowell and Lawrence used to go straight. So over there are the bridge abutments of the second main line for the Boston and Maine into Lowell. But when they acquired the Boston and Maine, when the Boston and Maine acquired the Boston and Lowell, they also acquired the Lowell and Lawrence, so they decided to abandon that portion of their main line and redirect it on the Lowell and Lawrence. So here we are at Meadowcroft Street, which was technically the beginning of the Lowell and Lawrence, or you might say the western terminus. Okay, now we're on the other side of the Concord River. The Lowell and Lawrence crossed over the Concord River, way over there behind the house, and it came over Billerica Street here on a bridge. And these high tension wires actually follow the right-of-way all the way to Wamesit. So this is the Lowell and Lawrence as it approached the Concord River towards Lowell and came off the Concord River towards Lawrence. So this is the Billerica Street overpass. Okay, we're here at Carmine Street. This is roughly around where Belvedere and South Lowell come together. And we're looking back towards Lowell. This was a grade crossing. And the Lowell and Lawrence main line crossed right here. Now we look towards Tewksbury. As you can see, the right-of-way has been impeded. So if they wanted to build a bike path, they're going to have to go through those cars. And then as you can see way in the back there, the telegraph lines are actually elevated. That's because they're going to be going over Interstate 495, which did not exist when the Lowell and Lawrence did exist. So our next destination will be on the Lowell-Tewksbury line. Okay, we're on the other side of Interstate 495, and as you can see, the right-of-way, it was torn up in the 1920s, so it's been 90 years since the tracks went through here, and of course it's all grown over. The high tension wires are still here, marking where the grade used to be. So this little development we're in on the Lowell-Tewksbury line obviously did not exist in the 1920s when the line was abandoned. It was only put in within the last 15 years. So that's looking towards Tewksbury and Wamesit. And that's looking back towards Lowell and 495. Okay, we're now here in Wamesit, a little hamlet here in Tewksbury. And as you can see, the Lowell and Lawrence came under Route 38. Actually, Route 38 crossed here at one time at grade. But they just many years ago decided to separate the grade. So the Lowell and Lawrence, this was their original bed right here. And when the Boston and Maine took over, they kept this portion until about 1983. and they put a junction right over there, which has now been taken out, to their main line. So this is the Andover and Lowell, and this was the old Lowell and Lawrence. So right here would have been the original before they connected with the B&M, and that's the realignment track with the B&M. So this, my friends, is Wamesit, a little hamlet in Tewksbury. We are about a mile down the track from Wamesit, and we're looking back at Wamesit Junction. We're here on Old Boston Road in Tewksbury. And there's the crossing of Old Boston Road, and the right-of-way continuing over the Power Company Road and continuing towards Tewksbury Center, which is about another mile away. So this portion was active right up until 1983, when the Boston and Maine abandoned it. And way over there is the power plant. And the power plant and the Andover and Lowell Railroad is crossing right over there. See if we can see the there we are. There's the crossing. So here we are at Old Boston Road. This is the first of two crossings of Old Boston Road. So let's go to the second. Okay, here we are at the other Old Boston Road crossing. This one closer to Tewksbury Center. And the tracks used to cross here. As you can see, the rail right there, all bent over when they took this crossing out. See that? The tracks through those trees there. This crossing was only taken out a few years ago because when they built the elderly housing over there, the track used to cross right across here and went right in front of the nursing unit. And so we are about a half a mile from Tewksbury Center. And that is where we'll be following the Lowell and Lawrence next. Okay, we're in Tewksbury Center on North Street. There used to be a little yard right over here where all these trees and vegetations are. As you see, this little cement post here is probably the yard limit. About 4 or 5 tracks used to come up to North Street right here. And there used to be a customer next to the Congregational Church. It's now long gone. And this was all abandoned in 1983 when the customer no longer was receiving cars. So as you can see, most of the track, oh, there's a tie right there. Most of it's all gone. It's about as far as the rail goes until you get to Lawrence. And right there where that telephone pole is, that's where the track crossed over and then continued on. So from North Street in Tewksbury, next stop, the Tewksbury Cemetery. We're in back of the Tewksbury Cemetery here, about a quarter mile east of Tewksbury Center. We're looking back towards Tewksbury Center as the Lowell and Lawrence ran behind the Tewksbury Cemetery. And again, there we are looking west back towards Tewksbury. And there's the Tewksbury Cemetery. And there we are looking east towards Tewksbury Junction. You can see the right-of-way is nice and clear. It's a nice hiking path if you want to come here and hike. But this is behind the Tewksbury Cemetery, halfway between Tewksbury Center and Tewksbury Junction. And Tewksbury Junction is where we're now headed. Okay, now we're in Tewksbury Junction, and the only part of the right-of-way you can actually see is the North Y that went from Tewksbury Junction to Lawrence Junction. It used to be called Tewksbury Junction on the west, Lawrence Junction on the north, and Salem Junction on the south. But then it all became Tewksbury Junction. So we're looking down where the Lowell and Lawrence went from Tewksbury to Lawrence. But the Salem and Lowell is obliterated. Because look at what they're doing. They are destroying the old railroad junction by putting in this god-awful condo complex. But the Salem and Lowell would have gone off somewhere over there. And the tracks would have crossed Livingston Street right about here. The Y to Salem about right there, and the Y to Lawrence right about there. And then just up the street here is the Andover and Lowell branch of the B&M. The B&M's main line into Lowell is why the Lowell and Lawrence was abandoned. So here we are at Tewksbury Junction, and we're going to be continuing on to Andover. Pinnacle Street at Tewksbury Junction, or on the edge of Tewksbury Junction, almost into East or North Tewksbury. But the Salem and Lowell met the Lowell and Lawrence at Tewksbury Junction, and then the Lowell and Lawrence came here. We're looking towards Tewksbury Junction. Only the right-of-way, the little bridge that they had going over that gully is now gone. Otherwise, we could walk all the way to the Boston and Maine's main line, or Pan Am's main line. But because of the bridge being out, we can't. But this is looking back towards Tewksbury Junction and Pinnacle Street here in Tewksbury. And you can't really tell on this side, right where that rock is, because the right-of-way has been obliterated because of a lot of this condo construction and all that. So this is Pinnacle Street in Tewksbury. This was the last grade crossing in Tewksbury before you entered Andover. So we'll now go to the first grade crossing in Andover. Okay, we're here at Bellevue Street, the first crossing in Andover. As you see the sign there saying Old Railroad Preservation. We're looking towards Lawrence. As you can see, the right-of-way is perfectly preserved there. That's looking east towards Lawrence. If we turn around and look back where we were at Pinnacle Street, as you see, this person's driveway is built right on the right-of-way. And the right-of-way went into the forest there. So this is Bellevue Road in Andover, the first crossing in Andover. And now our next stop will be towards Haggers Pond. Okay, we're in the Haggers Pond section of Andover. We're on Haggers Pond Road. And as you can see, this little trees and pathways, this is where the Lowell and Lawrence came in and crossed Haggers Pond Road. We're looking back towards Tewksbury. As you see, it's now a hiking trail. As you can tell right over there, it says Haggers Pond Rail Trail. And that's the rail trail over there. That's heading towards the city of Lawrence. You can see people use it as a hiking trail. And that's looking towards Lawrence. That's where the Lowell and Lawrence crossed Haggers Pond Road here in Andover. Okay, now we're going to go to the other side of Haggers Pond, right before the junction with 495. Okay, here we are on High Plain Road in Andover. heading towards West Andover. And that's looking back at where we were on High Plain Road. As you see John Razook there. Yeah, John's been with me the whole time. He's just been avoiding getting in the shots. But we're looking back towards Hager's Pond, where we were. And then the track came right along here, crossed over, and went right where those rocks are. We walk over a little closer. That goes all the way to the exit ramp on 495 to 93. Now this is where it's going to get interesting, because after it goes by 93 and 495, crossed over right where the two highways cross, and we're going to have a hard time trying to pick it up after that, but we're going to do our best, and hopefully we'll pick it up in West Andover before heading into Lawrence. So from High Point Road here in Andover, onward we go. Okay, here we are in West Andover, and we see this is where the right-of-way of the Lowell and Lawrence went, heading towards Lawrence. And so we're looking at Lawrence that way. The right-of-way is kind of obliterated behind me from where it crossed where the two highways are now. I turn around and look directly back. Portion of the street is on the right-of-way, and the junction of 495 and Interstate 93 are behind those trees. You could probably hear the highways, because the railroad right-of-way went right over the bridge that carries 495 over 93. So this is the Lowell and Lawrence in West Andover, and we will continue on to a few more West Andover crossings before we head into Lawrence. Okay, we're here on Chandler Road in Andover, looking at the Lowell and Lawrence right-of-way. Must have gone under on a bridge here. We're looking towards Lawrence, and as you can see, there's now water in the right-of-way, so they've turned this into a little brook. And as we come across the street here, we're looking back towards 495 and 93. As you can see, it's now a little gully. All the flood waters from the runoff from all the extra rain we've had in October. And this is where the Lowell and Lawrence went underneath this street on a bridge. Okay, our next destination, we got to figure that out. But it'll be somewhere. Okay, we are on Pauline Lane here in Andover, right on the Lawrence line. As you can see through these trees, the right-of-way of the Lowell and Lawrence. That was back where we were on Chandler. And this is where the right-of-way, it no longer is noticeable, because there's construction and little neighborhoods built on top of the right-of-way here all the way into Lawrence. So if I turn around, you're going to see over here, you can't even tell where the track went. Of course, this neighborhood did not exist when the tracks were here, so the land looks like it's been raised. But that's looking back towards 495 and 93. That's looking towards Lawrence. So now we're going to go and see where we can find any noticeable remnants of this right-of-way before we enter Lawrence. Okay, now we're in Lawrence, and as you can see, the track right here, this is where the track starts back up. The track, this road is actually on the old right-of-way. And what they did, they realigned this track because there's still a customer over there. So I guess that used to be a siding. And so the trains still deliver here. And if you turn this way, you see the tracks still stay on the road, cross over the intersection, and continue to downtown Lawrence and the Boston and Maine main line. So we're in Lawrence, and we're now in the part of the Lowell and Lawrence that's still in use. Okay, now we're at the Beacon Street crossing as we continue to approach the yards in Lawrence. As you see, this is only protected by the old-fashioned St. Andrew's crossbuck. One there and one over there. This track is still used, as we said, to get to the one and only customer. It's right down the road here. So there's the track. And there's the section of the Lawrence and Lowell, Lowell and Lawrence, that is still being used. And there's your old-fashioned crossbucks. There's Joe. Okay, we're now at the Andover overpass. This nice iron bridge here. As it's coming out of the Lawrence yard heading towards the customer. Lawrence is to the right, Andover is to the left. And we're almost at the end of the Lowell and Lawrence, or at least the east end. Okay, we're at Route 28 in Lawrence, and this is the eastern terminus of the Lowell and Lawrence. As you see, the track curved around, looking back at where we were at the Iron Bridge. The Route 28 crossing, which is only protected by a St. Andrew's crossbuck, no lights and gates. And there you see the track curving over to the main line. As the main line is right over there. That's also the Haverhill commuter rail line. Lawrence Station is to the left, Andover is to the right. I thank you for tuning in and watching the video of the abandoned railroads of Massachusetts, the old Lowell and Lawrence. Till next time.